Well, summer's over. Smoke season is still here. I hear anyone say, we want the smoke, you're a bad person, and you should feel bad. Pretty much done with that. But the new season is here, the fall, right? Like pumpkin spice lattes. Who's a pumpkin? She just outed herself there. She's the only one in this entire room who like pumpkin spice lattes. I hate pumpkin spice lattes. They're not good. Just don't like it. I don't get it. I wish I liked it. I want to be a part of it. You know when you just want to be a part of something? And I just can't bring myself. I can't lose enough dignity to drink those things. But if you love them, that's okay. You're just wrong. I hope you enjoy them. It's only here for a short period of time, and then hopefully they will bring back the eggnog latte, which was discontinued for some reason. I don't get it. But I say all this to say, like, September's here, summer's done. It's school year. Like, this is kind of a new time for us, for everyone, even for like families, for elementary school kids. Like, September is kind of the reset of our society into the more functional time of our lives. The chaos of summer is behind us. The carefree nature is gone, and now it's structure because it's a new school year. It's a new, just general time. You always think that spring is that season when opportunity comes, right? That's when love is in the air, right? But really, this is your chance. This is the time to meet that special someone. Maybe at your new school, maybe you're starting university, maybe your new program, maybe it's at, a new job, or maybe it could be in your small group this year. Shout out September 24th, Connecting Point. Just casual plug there. But it could be, it's a new season. As far as new seasons go, I want to talk about what that means for here at the project. Now, I'm the lead pastor. If you haven't had a chance to meet me yet, my name's Jeff, and I've been leading the project for about 3 years. I used to attend the project about 10 years plus ago. In fact, I'm the fourth lead pastor of the project, and the last two actually work here at Hope City still. One of them is named Thomas, and then the other one is Phil. Pastor Phil is actually the lead pastor of Hope City Church, and he was my young adult pastor here at the project when I attended. And actually, I think there's a picture. He's aged really well and looks exactly the same. I look a little bit different than I used to back then. But I did attend the project here, and when I was your age, I actually was here, and I sat in the seats that you sit in, and I was a part of it. And the project, even before I started attending it, when I was like in junior high, was still around some 22, 23 years ago. And so I wanted to talk to you, like, what is the next for the project? What is that fresh vision? What is that new thing? Not so much for a history lesson, but what is that thing that we're going to do? What is the new ground we're going to take? What is that new call to action that we're going to be a part of? And here at the project, we definitely are a church that likes to have some strategic vision. We like to have a plan. We like to be organized. And those are all good things, and we're not going to lose that. But when you ask, like, what is that new thing that God is calling us to? What is that new mission? What is that new vision? What is the fresh campaign that we can rally around? What is the new thing God is doing? Nothing. It's actually the same. That won't perform well in an ad campaign or in some boosted posts on social media, but it's the truth. Now hear me out. The project does and always has existed for people who are not here yet. We exist as a place of refuge for people that are just in calamity in their lives, and they look at the world and they feel hopelessness. And don't get me wrong, we care about growth, discipleship, mentorship, development in general. That's why we have small groups. Shout out Connecting Point, September 24th. Don't miss out. We have all these things that matter, but at the root of what we exist for, it is to reach people that don't know Jesus yet, that don't see the fundamental value of a Jesus-based life, have not had the opportunity yet to see and meet Jesus in a tangible, realistic way that can change their lives forever. We're fundamentally aimed to be a church for people who are seeking answers on faith and how that could fit into their lives. A place that speaks fundamentally, again, fundamental truths, even when it's not easy, and even when that's not a fun thing to hear in our society. We speak the truth, and we speak it with honesty, integrity, and impunity because truth matters. We want this place to be a place where you can invite your friends and expect that it will be a positive experience for them. While they experience truth, that they will be able to have a good time and they'll walk away saying, I can't believe that church could be like that. That's what we aim for. A place that we hope that you can look at the world around them and the chaos that they see in their own lives, maybe that you see in your own lives, in the news, in the world that you look at on TV, whatever you see, that you would be able to find refuge and peace and hope here. Look at the world. Let me ask you, what does it look like to you? Do you see hope when you look at the world, when you think about what's happening globally, nationally, in your own backyard? Do you feel hope? What about in your own life? Have you made mistakes? Have you found yourself in a place you never thought you would be? Defined by your failures. Do you ever feel like you will feel hope again? I want to talk to you about a situation where that was just not the case. A story that's found in a document in the first half of the Bible called the New Testament. It's in a document called 2 Samuel. It's about a guy named David. Now, you may have heard of him, you may have not, but if you've ever heard of the story of David and Goliath, like the little guy that beats up the big guy or actually kills him in war, the really, really tiny guy that takes out the giant, David and Goliath, that's the same David. This man ended up going on from killing Goliath, from winning that incredible story, going on to becoming the king of Israel, a literal king. The man, the king. The Bible records him and actually talks about him and says that he was a man after God's own heart. That's the defining statement of his character and who he was. And he went on to have incredible success. Listen, the Bible doesn't just throw around terms like a man after God's own heart. Like that was a major statement. This guy had it together. In fact, the truth is that David was the type of person that you wanted to emulate. David was the type of person that you wanted to be. He had his life together. He had position. He had power. He had integrity, he had character, everybody loved him, and it just seemed like everything he did, things were turning up David. He couldn't do anything wrong. His life was just great. But then, just as everything seemed like it was smooth, things started to fall apart. We catch up with David in 2 Samuel 11, where we first look at verses 1 to 9. It says this: In the spring, at the time when kings go off to war, David sent Joab out with the king's men and the whole Israelite army. They destroyed the Ammonites and besieged Rabbah, but David remained in Jerusalem. One evening, David got up from his bed and walked around the roof of the palace. From the roof, he saw a woman bathing. The woman was very beautiful, and David sent someone to find out about her, which is super awkward. The man said, "She is Bathsheba, the daughter of Elam, and the wife of Uriah the Hittite." Taken. Then David sent messengers to get her. She came to him, and he slept with her. Now she was purifying herself from the monthly uncleanliness. Then she went back home. The woman conceived and went back home and conceived, and she sent word to David saying, "I am pregnant." So David sent this word to Joab: "Send me Uriah the Hittite." That's her husband. And Joab sent him to David. When Uriah came to him, David asked him how Joab was, how the soldiers were, and how the war was going. It's just like, hey, just casually, was just thinking about you, wanted to know, is this war better than the last war? Just thought maybe I'd have you over in the middle of the battle. Like, this is setting off some red flags, I think, in general. But then David said to Uriah, "Go down to your house and wash your feet." So Uriah left the palace, and a gift from the king was sent after him. But Uriah slept at the entrance to the palace with all his master's servants and did not go down to his house. David was thinking, hey, pregnancy kind of shows. I'm not going to be able to hide this. I'm kind of a big deal, kind of an important person in society, and it would really ruin my perception. It would actually be bad for the whole kingdom more than it would be bad for me if they knew that I did something quite like that. Awkward. So he decided to kind of hide it. He thought maybe logically, if I can have her husband come home, well, then he'll think that it's his baby and he'll raise it. Dark. That's pretty low. But then he tries to send Uriah home. He tries to send her husband home to spend the night with his wife. And then, the plan would move into action and it would be complete. But Uriah doesn't do that. He doesn't go home. He refuses to go home to his wife. And he's actually saying, I can't go back, because word comes back to David that he didn't go home. He says, all my friends are at war. They're sleeping in ditches. They're not spending a good time. They can't just hang out and eat with the king and have just all these comforts. He's a great guy. He's a man of character. And he won't do what David is trying to get him to do. So the next night he tries again. David's like, okay, I'm starting to get a little frustrated here. I'm getting a little worked up. This isn't working. But I know what I'll do. I'll get him drunk. We'll get him drunk, and then, that'll get the romance moving. And so he gets him drunk, but still, Uriah, he's this great man of character, and he refuses to go home. He refuses to do that while his friends are at war. Finally, David is just at the end of his rope. He's kind of faced with this situation. He's like, I don't know what else to do. This guy will not do the deed, and he won't let my plan work, so I have no choice. I don't know how to fix this problem. I cannot be found out. I cannot be found out. The fall would be too great. The shame, the pain, I can't let that happen. So he just kind of lets this thing snowball, and he goes from making this small issue, this small mistake, to making the decision as king to send this man back to war, but to have a statement sent out to put him at the very front lines of the war. I don't know about you, but when I watch Lord of the Rings or any of those movies, you generally don't want to be at the front lines. Those people tend to die first. I want to be at the back, kind of cheering. Good job, guys, keep going. The arrows hit you first at the front. You're usually not wanting to be there. And this happened to Uriah. He died. David basically has him killed, murdered in a roundabout way, but pretty directly at the same time. Word gets back to David that he's dead. Bathsheba cries, and David marries her because he's an honorable guy, just a good dude. We can all see that David sucks, right? There's no defending this guy. He's done one of the most heinous things that I can think of. He's just been a bad person in general. He is a wife-stealing liar, and now he's a murderer. From just this beginning point of just walking around while his army's at war on the roof, to now he's kind of spiraled into this space, and he's no longer a man after God's own heart. He's just a straight-up garbage person. We don't like him. He needs a punch to the throat. We would love to see justice to this person. This is the worst type of guy. The story doesn't end there, because it would seem that he got away with it, right? No one's going to know. It doesn't matter. No one will ever find out. It will never, it's not going to hurt anyone, well, other than the guy who got killed, but it's not going to hurt anyone else, right? No big deal. We catch up again in verses 1 to 13 in chapter 12, and says, the Lord sent Nathan to David. When he came to him, he said, there were two men in a certain town, one rich and the other poor. The rich man had a very large number of sheep and cattle, but the poor man had nothing except one little ewe lamb he had bought. He raised it, it grew up with him and his children. It shared his food, drank from his cup, and even slept in his arms. It was like a daughter to him. Now a traveler came to the rich man, but the rich man refrained from taking one of his own sheep or cattle to prepare for a meal for the traveler who had come to him. Instead, he took the ewe lamb that belonged to the poor man and prepared it for the one who had come to him. David burned with anger against the man and said to Nathan, as surely as the Lord lives, the man who did this must die. He must pay for that lamb 4 times over because he did such a thing and had no pity. Then Nathan said to David, you are the man. You are this man. That's you. This is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says. I anointed you king over Israel, and I delivered you from the hand of Saul. I gave you your master's house to you, and your master's wives into your arms. I gave you all Israel and Judah, and if all this had been too little, I would have given you even more. Why did you despise the word of the Lord by doing what is evil in his eyes? You struck down Uriah the Hittite with the sword and took his wife to be your own. You killed him with the sword of the Ammonites. Now therefore the sword will never depart from your house, because you despised me and took the wife of Uriah the Hittite to be your own. This is what the Lord says: out of your own household I am going to bring calamity on you. Before your eyes I will take your wives and give them to one who is close to you, and he will sleep with your wives in broad daylight. You did it in secret, but I will do this thing in broad daylight before all Israel. Then David said to Nathan, I have sinned against the Lord. Now there wasn't some public display of sexuality, but there was a public display of shame. David had to come face to face with his own reality. David had to come face to face with the person that he was. He looked in the mirror and he saw that he's a Costco-sized bag of garbage right now. We judge him. And he is undeniably bad here. And he's realizing it. No one wants to be like David anymore. And when we all are here, whether we're watching online or whether we're all in person, and you assess what he had done, that's not somebody that you would ever in any way want to emulate, right? It's a bad person. But can I ask you this? When you look closer, when you look at your own heart, when you look at your life, when you look at the patterns of your behavior, when you look maybe not on that scale, but just in general, are we really that different from David? Like maybe you're not a narcissistic, wife-stealing murderer, fair, but look at your heart. Look at your mind. Are you arrogant? Does your pride get the best of you sometimes? Have you ever been tempted on a large scale or a small scale and just gave in even though you knew it wasn't the right thing? Have you ever felt deep guilt and tried to hide your sin and it just kind of gets worse and worse and spirals and spirals? Have you found yourself spinning deeper and deeper into sin until you're just rotting in chaos? Have you cheapened your life to the point where a short-term gain has led you to long-term regret and brokenness, and you're now living under the weight of the brokenness of your actions? Have you ever been in a place where you just can't seem to get out and you don't know how you got there? You're trying to sleep, you're trying to fall asleep, but you can't because this person that you've become keeps just in your head. Just how did I get to be in this point? How did I become this person? You look in the mirror and you're like, I don't even know myself anymore. How did I become this? I don't even know when it started, where it ended. Like I don't know who I am. I think on some scale we've all been there. We've all made mistakes where we're like, man, I don't even know how I became this or how I got here or how this happened. And it sucks. And yeah, so David's an extreme, but I think we all can agree and admit that we've had moments in our life on some scale where this has been us. A sharp realization of our imperfection, of our failures and our mistakes. And yeah, this happens to us. But this is actually just a symptom of a larger problem with our culture. Our culture is this really just like, we want everything now. Give me right now culture. We want everything tailored to us. We don't want to wait for anything. We want to just experience everything all at once. We actually, I would call our culture and our society one of experiential gluttony. Because we just kind of want everything. We don't want to wait. When there is a temptation, when there is an urge, when there's something that we want or that will feel good or that will taste good or anything like that, we're just like, this is it. I want it right now. The consequences, don't care. Let's just go for it because we only have 80 to 100 years if we're lucky on this planet. So you know what? I'm just going to live hard, die young. It's all good. There's nothing after, so let's just experience it all. If it feels good, do it. There's a document in the second half of the Bible, the New Testament, by a pastor named Pastor Paul, and he writes it to a church in the ancient Greek city of Corinth. The document's called 1 Corinthians. It says, you save food for the stomach and the stomach for food, and God will destroy them both. The body, however, is not meant for sexual immorality, but for the Lord, and the Lord for the body. This was a common saying back then, the stomach for food and food for the stomach. And what that really meant at that time was just, hey, if it feels good, if the boot fits, wear it. Just, if it tastes good, they're designed for each other, just go all in. Just try everything, live for everything. The culture then was very much just this experience it all, feel everything you can, have as much fun, and there are no consequences because life is short. And yeah, this is about sexual sin, and that's what got David in this story. But in our society, this can really fit us in so many ways. Because we live in a space where it's really just a buffet of opportunity. There's so many opportunities to try everything, to live for everything, to just to taste everything. And maybe the best way I can explain it is like following God, it's not bad. You get to experience so many great things. You get to feel healthy. It's kind of like a smoothie, right? Like booster juice, it's good. There's so many options. It's good. You feel good after. Yeah, a little bit of sugar, a little expensive. Takes a little, if there's 3 people in line or more than one person in the room, it's gonna take 5 hours, but that's okay. I think we've all been there. But it's not bad. And we live like that for a while, and then we start to see that culture and our society has all these things to offer us. It's like, yeah, you know what, just, why not? Just a little porn. You know, Tinder hookup. A little substance abuse, okay. Oh. Cheating, stealing, that, You know what? Lying, cheating, little club. Oh. You know what? I deserve it. Treat yourself. Nobody will ever know. And then we sit there, and our stomach hurts. And we get this spiritual indigestion. And we realize deep in our heart, like, I feel terrible. I don't feel good. I'm unhealthy. I'm rotting inside. I've had all these experiences, and I've enjoyed so many things. Every pleasure available to me I've tried, and it's so fulfilling in the moment, but now I'm depressed. I have anxiety. I can't look at myself in the mirror anymore. It was fun for the moment, but now I just hate myself. And that is the symptom of the disease that our culture gives us of trying everything, of falling into our own temptations, of seeing everything we can experience as just another hill to climb and another story to tell. Because we live in a society that wants to make a memory. We chase memories and then quickly realize that we wish we could forget them. I'm so full, but I'm so empty. Because sin takes what God promises us, good things that are worth pursuing, what is good, and it twists it so we can justify it. Lies to us. It says, I can give this to you faster, cheaper, with less work, more intense, and it leaves us broken, guilty, distraught, and deeply at our core unfulfilled. David finally saw himself in the mirror. It's funny because he was a good person. He was the man, a man after God's own heart. And he just put his head down and kind of got so caught up in his sin that it snowballed into this situation. I think we can be there too, where we don't see the reality of what we're living, or we ignore everything that's happening. We put the blinders on because it's just, if we power through, maybe we can make it through a little further and we won't have to deal with what we know to be true about ourselves and our lives. But David looked in the mirror and he saw guilt, brokenness, shame, and regret. David was told for a season that he was going to have to eat some serious crow, that he was going to have to deal with some consequences, and his life was going to be difficult. He had to look himself in the mirror first off, and he had to wrestle with his identity, with who he had always been, who he was known to be, and then now, who he is now. But also his son got very sick and eventually passed away. David wept and mourned for a long time because his son was ill. He wept violently, and he begged that God, please, just let my son live. Let my son live. We see in 2 Samuel 12, 20-25. It says, then David got up from the ground after he washed After his son had finally passed away, he put on lotions and changed his clothes. He went into the house of the Lord and worshiped. Then he went to his own house, and at his request they served him food, and he ate. His attendants asked him, "Why are you acting this way? Well, the child was alive, you fasted and wept, but now that the child is dead, you get up and eat." He answered, "Well, the child was still alive, I fasted and I wept. I thought, who knows, the Lord may be gracious to me and let the child live. But now that he is dead, why should I go on fasting? Can I bring him back again? I will go to him, but he will not return to me." Then David comforted his wife Bathsheba, and he went to her and made love to her, and she gave birth to a son, and they named him Solomon. The Lord loved him, and because the Lord loved him, he sent word through Nathan the prophet to name him Jediah. It's a complicated story. There's a lot going on. A lot of twists and turns, a lot of ups and downs. But maybe you tonight are here and you're in a situation similar to where David was at. Maybe you need to come clean to somebody for the first time. Maybe you need to confess something to a friend, to someone you've hurt, someone you've lied to. Maybe you need to be honest with yourself for the first time in a long time. Find accountability. Maybe you've had your head down for a long time and you're just pushing away from the consequences. Or maybe you're here today and you're covered in guilt for your mistakes, the pain that you've caused. Or maybe it's something someone has said to you, some pain and consequences that have come to you from the actions of others. And you just think, I don't know if I could ever feel human again after what they said to me, after what they did to me. You're feeling like I am trapped in this forever. I will never be whole again. I am defined by this thing I either did or the thing that I had done to me. You're here tonight, you're online, and you feel hopeless. But know this, the story of David and Bathsheba is one of sin, consequences, and pain. And that doesn't really fill anyone with hope. But it is also, and this is more important, and you need to hear this part, it is a story of incredible forgiveness, restoration, and hope. The fundamental truth of this story is not the pain and the mistakes and the sin. It's the restoration and the hope that came from forgiveness from God. David would have thought that God was literally going to kill him. He even said that the guy in this story who killed the little sheep should have been killed 4 times over for what he did. And when he realized it was him who was actually this person, metaphorically, he would have realized, I should die. But he didn't. In fact, he actually grew. He faced his consequences. He took what was coming to him and what he had to go through in order to get to the other side. But here's the one thing that I love about David. If you follow his life, he does make mistakes. This is one of the big ones for sure. Don't get me wrong. He didn't do this type of stuff all the time. But when he screwed up, David never made the same mistake twice. When he got forgiveness, when he moved on, he didn't just move on, he moved into a new space. He grew, he got closer to God, and he became a man who was truly after God's own heart, because when he fell, he got back up and he moved closer and closer to God. That is the marker of someone after God's own heart. So maybe tonight you're feeling like you're disqualified, hopeless, broken, irredeemable. Know this right now. God has a future for you. No matter what you feel in your heart, in your head, or what you've been telling yourself, what you see when you look in the mirror, you need to know that there's a future for you of life, of joy, and God will take what is dead in your life and he will bring it back to life. He has never, and he will never give up on you. He's come through for you before, he's gonna do it again. He isn't done with you. He's just getting started with you. The story of Jesus on the cross is that of unconditional love, an immeasurable restoration, of resurrection from death. And that resurrection is available to the things that you think are dead and unsavable in your life. Nothing is unsavable with Jesus. Nothing is truly dead when Jesus is involved. And Jesus is available to all of us, whether you follow him or you've never made that decision yet. So you want to know what the vision for the project is for this upcoming year? It is and always has been the hope of Jesus. The restoration available, the resurrection that came from the cross. When Jesus died on the cross, he defeated death. And listen, I know you're walking through something right now. I know your heart's pounding right now through your chest, and you're thinking, not me, not me. What I did is too bad. What I've had done to me is too bad. It's not death. You're still breathing. Jesus beat death, and he can defeat whatever you're walking through. He can, he has, and he will. The battle is already won, and you don't have to question whether there is available hope in your life. Hope is available to you now and forever. And it is so worth letting go of what's been holding you back, releasing your grip and just giving it to Jesus, to no longer have to be defined, to no longer have to look in the mirror and be that person that you have been told you are or you have told yourself you are. Hope in forgiveness, hope in restoration. The resurrection of Jesus is the thing that really just gives us hope for our hearts in our everyday lives. Resurrection of things that are dead. So for your illness, your sickness in your life, resurrection. For the broken relationships in your life, resurrection. Your mental health issues, resurrection. For your addictions, for whatever you're walking through right now that you're really just thinking, that's the thing, it's been killing me for so long, and I just want to just let go of it finally. Resurrection. It's not dead. You're not dead. You have more hope than you could ever imagine. You have a future. You are not disqualified because of resurrection, because of restoration, because of the forgiveness of Jesus, because of what he did on the cross. You never have to question your validity or your value or your beauty. Jesus calls you beautiful. He calls you his child. God is calling you to relationship. God is calling you to the hope that's been extended to you this whole time. He wants to take the dead and decay in your heart and bring it back to life. And get this, he not only says he'll heal you, but he'll bring beauty from your tragedy. David and Bathsheba went on to have a son. We saw that. His name was Solomon. If you read through the Old Testament further on, Solomon went on to be king and was known and called, similar to how David was called a man after God's own heart. He was called the wisest man to ever live. Don't get me wrong, he had his troubles too. But he went on to do great things. He wrote incredible wisdom literature in Scripture. Out of the absolute chaos, out of the absolute sin, the rot of the story of David and Bathsheba, God takes that situation and he makes it good. He took the tragedy and he made beauty out of it, and he will do that in your life as well if you allow him to. If you go face to face with who you've been, with what you've done, you say, that's not me anymore. I'm not defined by my past actions. I am defined by Jesus Christ who lives within me. That's the hope of the gospel. If you're struggling with who you've become, he called you beautiful before, and he'll call you beautiful again. He never stops seeing you as beautiful. But it takes more than just seeing your failure, than just acknowledging your failure. You have to step up and follow Jesus. David never made the same mistake twice because he got up, he realized his mistakes, and he walked with God. He walked closer to God. He sought God. He did everything he could to be, to act, and to speak, and to think more like God, and that's what we need to do. There's only beauty in our tragedy if we let Jesus lead us to where we need to go, because we previously let ourselves lead us towards where we wanted to go. But Jesus will take us to where we need to go, and that's how beauty comes out of deep tragedy. So friends, it's time to hope again. It's time for you to dream again. It is time for you to feel alive again. Let the forgiving power of Jesus wash over you and cleanse you of those things that you've defined yourself as or that you've felt that you are. It's time to let hope rise in your heart, in your mind, and in your life. That is the power of the gospel. That is the power of the cross. And that is why the church exists. That is the message that this city needs, this country needs, this world needs, your family needs, your friends need, everybody on earth needs. That is why we are called to this message, to share it with the world around us. That is why why the project exists. That is the vision of our church, is to reach the universities, the workplaces, the young adults of this city in the same way, and to offer the same hope that is being extended and has been extended to you. It's news worth sharing. It's news that we can't hide, because it is too important in a world where personally and just globally and societally, everything seems to be falling apart. And it feels like there is no hope, there is only darkness. There is hope and there is light. We just need to present it and to choose it in our own lives. So for you tonight, like I said in 2 Samuel 2:13, after David was like, oh, I'm gonna die, and fully would have thought in his life, I'm done. I'm disqualified, I'm ruined, I've lost everything. Nathan says, the Lord has taken away your sin. You are not going to die. Let those words echo as true in your heart right now. The Lord has taken away your sin. You're not gonna die. I'm not gonna die. You are not gonna die. You are going to live because Jesus lives within you. And that is the message that we need to fixate in our heart, but maybe for you tonight, that you need to accept for the first time. Maybe you accepted it a long time ago, but you've been just kind of running away and living your own life, and you're like, man, I don't even know if that's who I am anymore. Maybe you need to recommit that to Jesus. He will accept you back in a heartbeat, no questions asked. But maybe you've never made that decision before, and you're thinking, this makes sense. I want that so bad. I want forgiveness. I want hope. I'm tired of running. I'm tired of this life. I'm tired of looking in the mirror and hating who I've been. I want that restoration. I want that resurrection in my life. It's as simple as just inviting Jesus to be God of your soul, of your heart, and your mind. It's a long road after that, but it is the most worthy and valuable road that you'll ever find. And so if that's you tonight, if first time in a long time or first time ever, just pray along with me. You can bow your head, you can do it in your heart, whatever you're comfortable with. But Jesus, thank you that you are God, that you died on the cross. I acknowledge my sin. I acknowledge my brokenness, my need for you. I've been chasing the wrong things, but now I want to center my heart and my mind and my soul on you. I want to follow your example. I want to be washed clean of all of the garbage in my life, all of the rot and all of the decay that's been defining me and that's been holding me down. I want to stand up without that weight on my shoulders, and I relinquish my grip on my life, and I give it to you. So Jesus, come into my heart. Holy Spirit, speak to my life. Come into my soul and just guide me in everything that I do. I'm your child. I am a follower of you, Jesus. Make me more like you every single day. Amen. If you made that decision, in just a second, they're going to throw up a link on the screen. And you can go on there and let us know that you've made that decision. If you have any questions, you maybe want more answers, you have a lot of questions about this, or you're not quite ready, come talk to us after. You can talk to us by going to that link as well. You can go to theprojectyeg.com or go to our Instagram and just DM us as well. Get a hold of us. Do not leave this place without telling somebody that you made the best decision that you could ever make in your life, and that's to follow Jesus. And if that's you, congratulations. But for anyone who's still struggling, who's still working through and wrestling with these things that we've been talking about, shame, guilt, grief, unforgiveness, I'm gonna sing a couple of songs still. And I just encourage you to just center your heart, to just say, God, talk to me. Show me who you are. And I promise you, he will. Let's stand together.